What's up, YouTube, everybody? Welcome to another evening edition or once a week edition of Baitman Live. And I've got a good friend, good guest here, probably the most popular fishing tackle talk podcast, because that's what it is. It's the Tackle Talk podcast.
I can't hear you now.
You can't hear me? Uh-oh. Let me know if you guys can't hear me. Andrew says he can't hear me. What is going on? Can you hear me now, Andrew? He cannot hear me. What is going on? Johnny Jenkins says good. Andrew can't hear me. Kyle says he can hear both of us. So we got guys in chat that says he can hear me. Am I muted? Hold on, I'm gonna have to send a text here. Every time Baitman live stream does not matter. We have technical difficulties. It just will not do the same thing every time. I'm gonna kick you out and bring you back, Andrew. Hold on. All right, try it again. All right. Well, anyways, I don't understand what happened there. In backstage, everything was fine. When I hit the live button, it didn't work. So, let's see here. Guess. All right. So let me know in the chat if you can hear me. You just type the word like 6 cents or something, then I'll know if y'all have heard me. So I actually had an unfortunate incident happen to my laptop the other day. It was in my truck, and dropping my daughter off at school, and the resource officer, after me telling him multiple times, do not open the door on that side, he opened the door, and my laptop flew out, hit the ground, and it smashed it up pretty good. I'm able to kind of get it working. All right, you can hear me fine? Good deal. What's up, Michael Webb? All right, here's Andrew here again. We'll try it. Andrew's giving me this sign, so hold on. I'm gonna get off the stage here, so I'll be right back. I got Andrew back. Andrew, can you hear me, buddy?
There we go. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Andrew's here.
Hey.
Yeah. I don't know what happened, Andrew. That was crazy.
Turn it off, turn it on. Always works.
Yeah, that's what I tell the boomers at work when they're using the computer and they start banging on stuff. I'm like, just turn it off, turn it on.
Turn it off, turn it on. Do like pull the little cord out of the back and do the little thing you used to do with like the Nintendo.
Oh yeah, blow on the cartridge.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm surprised you're old enough to remember that.
Oh yeah, I was like behind the times with all my buddies. Like they all had Xboxes or whatever, and I had like the old school Nintendo at home.
Yeah, I love the old Nintendo, especially Super Nintendo. Hellabass says we can't see Andrew's hair.
There you go.
I mean, you put a hat on and it don't even move.
Yeah, it stays the same.
But anyways, guys, he's back. This is the second time you've now been on the Baitman Show. And Andrew, oh, it says your mic's muted. There we go. Fix that. It says can't unmute your guest because they chose to mute it themselves, but it looks unmuted. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. But Andrew has a great podcast, the Tackle Talk podcast, one of the top fishing podcasts in all of fishing land. So congratulations, Andrew. It's really blown up this year.
It's weird. Yeah. It's definitely weird to see. It's like I don't know. I like talking tackle. I like talking. I'm not like huge into the pro stuff. I watch enough pro stuff to like kind of keep up with most of it, but I'm more on like I just like to go out and fish, and we're just a bunch of like rednecks around here that fish a bunch of crappy creeks and rivers, and I figure if it works around here, it's got to work most places.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio, where you live around Dayton, that area is not necessarily known as big bass country.
No, it's not. You're more likely to catch syphilis at the river than you are a good smallmouth.
Well, I wouldn't know it by looking at the photos you post on Instagram. You're always, trekking a kayak somewhere and catching some giant smallmouth, and it's really crazy how you've blown up in the last year and a half, 2 years. I mean, you're still pretty big when you came on last time, and everybody said, "Man, I love that episode." And
Oh,
I was
thank you.
on your Tackle Talk deal, and it seems like we have a lot of crossover. A lot of guys that listen to Baitman and listen to Tackle Talk, and vice versa. And so it made sense if we're going to talk the best and worst, winners and losers 2023, and get a little spicy here.
Can't
I'd
wait.
get you on, but we are going to talk a little tackle at first. And I got a big bunch of stuff in, and I thought of you because I got some. I thought I had more, but I got one bag of the
Oh,
Havoc
that's
Pit Boss.
man. I got stuff. Hold on a second. Let me pull. I gotta have some somewhere. Oh yeah. We got the old. Oh yeah. Always got to stay strapped.
Oh man.
These have been in the package so long that they've lost like almost all the black, and they're just straight blue at this point.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what happened. They're like the black back, like how the bottom is usually darker as it kind of like does a little two-tone thing on the black and blue ones. They're just like straight neon blue at this point. But
well, that's not bad. That sapphire blue color, Zoom and NetBait, and I think even Havoc made a sapphire blue was a really good one.
Yeah,
especially for dirty water.
I'm still mad at Berkeley for getting rid of the whole Havoc line in general.
Yeah, I need to know that. So, what is your? I'm about to panic. I can't find my Zen. I'll have to before I get into streaming. I'll have to go grab my Zen. But what in your opinion, what makes that Havoc better than the power bait?
So I think the flutter is different on the power bait ones versus the old ones. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm sure they had to change something in the, the plastic components to get that power bait stuff to like stick in there. So it's got to be a completely different plastic or whatever, but it's just the flutter doesn't kick as hard on the power bait version as it does like on these old ones. And what I always found, I always used to rather take a 4-inch and cut like right there and make it a 3-inch so I could keep the big 4-inch profile, like, I don't know what you call them. They're not claws. They're just like appendages, I guess. But I'd rather have the 4-inch and cut it down than use the 3-inch, because the 3-inch ones, even in the old Havoc ones, didn't move as much as I wanted them to. But I think this is like the best jig trailer, like flipping jig trailer, maybe of all time. Is just a 4-inch Havoc Pit Boss with like maybe an inch cut off the top. But yeah, that, and I also hate just the sliminess and grossness of power bait in general. But
yeah, so the Havoc stuff doesn't seem like it absorbs water as much.
Yeah.
And it has a cult following. I've been selling a lot of stuff on Whatnot. See Helibass in here trying to plug his Whatnot. But
I got some Havocs to throw up on Whatnot.
Dude, I've got a ton of Havoc that I bought from a guy. I sold a couple bags of Pit Boss, and I thought, man, I'm going to have more. And I didn't, but I held one on for you, and I may have some more too. So I'm going to send them your way instead of capitalize off the frenzy. And
I appreciate it. I got lucky on eBay the other day. I think it was 5 packs of the regular old 4-inch green pumpkin Pit Bosses. They had them labeled as just like fishing beaver style bait or something. So they didn't come up if you just search Havoc. And I was just scrolling through and I found them. I was like, yep, I got them for like $1.80 a pack or something. It's like, yep.
Yeah, dude.
Please.
That's juicy. But the Berkeley Havoc stuff is more just the Pit Boss. They've got a cult following. And what's crazy is when I was in retail and they kind of went away, a lot of people had tons of it and they put it in discount bins, $1 a bag. And it was like pulling teeth getting people to buy it. We just put it in a big trough like and go through. But that Devil Spear, really good chatterbait trailer. And
I've never used it on a chatterbait before. Interesting.
Yeah, the Devil Spear, so it's like a Pit Boss, but it's just got that one little flange. And you can rig it horizontal, and it's almost like a Zaco back there. And Bobby
Isn't it
Baltus
funny that
says
we
have
always
it
just,
dry
like,
spit.
want the stuff that we can't have? So, like, while it was here, everybody thought it was crap, and then the second it goes away for, like, a year, everybody's, like, think it's the holy grail.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kinda like that with, bait companies that have a certain color of a bait, and it just does not sell, and so they discontinue it. You give it about 6 months, "Why'd they discontinue that? That was my
Uh-huh.
favorite color, I caught so many fish." And I'm
'Cause
like,
y'all weren't buying it when it was out.
"Yeah, you just gotta you
Yeah,
gotta buy more than one if you buy 4 or 5 and your
right.
buddies bought 4 or 5," but, I mean, it happens, you get certain sectors of the United States where 1 or 2 colors are really popular, but as a whole, it doesn't make sense for the company because, hey, we're only selling a couple 100 of these a year, so we're
Yeah.
only discontinuing, and then the people that were buying them are mad because that was the one of their favorite, but
Yep. So you know what I did? I went on eBay and got you know how you can get like, I don't know, they're made in like Ukraine or somewhere, but they're like reverse engineered molds
Mhm.
from popular baits. So you can get like rage craws, you can get, you know, anything you want basically from over there. And I got a like legit Pit Boss mold from over there. And it's like to the T, the same number of little, I don't know what you call those, but like the little spiny things like on the back. It is to a T the same Pit Boss. So I have like two of those individual cavity ones, and I just remelt all my old torn plastics into Pit Bosses at this point.
Did you say you bought those from the Ukraine?
Yeah, it's from on eBay, but then when you look where the seller's from, it's like from so and so Ukraine. It's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Maybe that's
Good
the
luck. Good
only
luck,
thing that
Berkeley.
Joe's done is supply Ukraine with money so they can make more molds for fishing tackle.
I could actually get behind that. Yeah, if they want to like be the martyr for all of us and abuse all copyright laws just so we can have a couple good molds.
Yeah. Well, there's a 2023, there's definitely been a lot of talk about knockoffs and this and that. So, you had a picture, it's on the thumbnail with the Berkeley coal shad. And yeah, a lot of people say,
Yep.
"Oh, my mag draft." But I'm here to tell you, and I've said this before, that is not a mag draft. I mean, it's not a
No.
copy of. The mag draft was not the first bait to ever have a harness. It was not the
Nope.
first swim bait. And believe it or not, the mag draft was a play of an osprey, which had been around for a long time. And it cracks me up now that every time a company has a swim bait with a treble hook on the bottom, it's a mag draft.
Yeah.
And
Or has a swim bait in general that's over 5 inches long.
yeah,
Like,
it's mag draft.
yeah, the internet's like, "That's a mag draft." Like, no, it's not. That's a completely different not this one, but, like, completely different tail, completely different everything. Nope, it's over 4 inches and it's a swim bait.
Pretty
Mag draft
much.
knockoff. Yeah.
But so I'll ask you your opinion. Cole Shad, a winner or a loser of 2023?
I'm gonna give it a winner just because it fixes two of the biggest issues that I have with a mag draft. Number one with a mag draft, and everybody who's ever thrown a mag draft knows the first time you throw one, it blows out so easy, and you have to get so used to the cadence that you have to fish a mag draft at, and you almost have to it's pulling teeth to go slow enough sometimes to get that mag draft to swim how you want it. And
Right.
there's just times where you want a different speed than that, and you want like the whole point of a bait a lot of times is to be able to be varied a little bit and have some kind of freedom with it. The mag draft really has that sweet spot and that pocket where it wants to be reeled so that it doesn't come out on its side or blow out. And this one really doesn't have that big of an issue. Obviously, if you burn it, you're still going to have some wobble and you're still going to have some rise on the sides. But as far as being able to get different speeds on it, it's definitely a little better than a mag draft. And then the other thing, I don't know if everybody else has had this issue. I've had magnets pulling out of mag drafts over
Yeah.
the years where you'll go and not only is it just hanging like this now, but the magnet that was buried in that belly is completely gone. Where now these have this it's that little, hopefully it'll focus here. Yeah, like that
Yep.
little
I see it.
clasp down there. And so that's what actually keeps it. So you have something that physically keeps that hook up versus just relying on a magnet in the belly that can easily be pulled down or just kind of falls down during the cast or something. This seems to be a little bit more secure. So I don't know. Those two things alone say, yeah, sure, I'll spend, I don't know, whatever they are, $8 or something on this versus a mag draft, especially the way we fish and the rivers and stuff. I just want the profile and I want it to be able to be retrieved at the speed that I want it to.
Correct. I mean, I like a mag draft, so I'm not hating on it, but there's a lot of truth to what you just said. You kind of have to know the cadence, the retrieve to get that bait to do its job. They got the mag draft. It's not the harness. I forgot what they call it, but you can put it on a beast hook, and that helps some. But the whole deal on that thing, and just like the coal shad, is not only is the tail movement, you gotta get that head wobble in there. And when you hit
Yeah.
that right retrieve, it does it both. And from what I've been told, and it's not just you, Matt Robertson, some other guys that throw the coal sheds, and man, you can retrieve it at different speeds and get the same result. Whereas mag draft, you got to hit that little perfect speed or it won't do it. And I know from experience, the first couple times I threw a 6-inch, I was like, Chris Aldane's full of shit. This thing sucks. And and then Matt Robertson said, you need to throw the 8-inch. So I threw the 8-inch and
Yeah.
caught some fish. Now I figured out that 6. It's just, man, you got to get it right.
Yep. It's finicky for
You
sure.
I tell you the bait it actually reminds me of. It really reminds me of the XPS swimmer, the Babe, the Steve Kennedy swim bait.
Yep.
A little better harness system, got very similar tail, kind of similar profile, but you got better sizes. And the XPS again, though, you had to fish it so slow. So guys would buy them in the Babe, and they'd be like, "Oh, this thing sucks. You can't burn it." I'm like, "Well, it's not a burning. I mean, you
Right.
barely reel that thing to get the best motion. So you get really limited, on what you can do with the bait."
Yeah, any musky guys that are out there will probably hit with this. Like, this reminds me a lot more of like a Reaction Innovation swimming dog. So, like, if you're a musky guy, like there's a couple big swim baits out there in the musky world. There's like obviously the Poseidons, which are like 10-inch long, and they kind of have that same dual kick that you're talking about, where like the head and the tail go in polar opposites and they kind of work off each other. And then this one's
Mhm.
just a lot more like a swimming dog, where it's like just shave off 2-3 inches of it. Honestly, I'll probably take the bigger version of the coal shad and musky fishing with this year, but it's like you just want that good tail kick, and I want to be able to reel it faster than 0.00001 miles an hour.
Yeah, I heard that, and actually, for consumer wise, guys are going to buy it, and they haven't ever really thrown a lot of swim baits. So most of their retrievers are going to be medium to a fast anyway. You don't want someone to buy something and go, "That's junk, throw it away." They never buy one. You
Yeah.
want something that can kind of be manipulated at every speed. So,
Yep.
all right. So that was our first winner or loser of 2023, and I actually took some notes here so I didn't get out of order. So we got people, we got baits and companies, and I got some other industry winners and losers here. We'll go ahead and we'll just start into people. So
All right.
I think we can all say, and this guy even owns tackle companies too. So the biggest loser of 2023, it has to be Floyd Buckets, aka Boyd Duckett, over at Major League Fishing. Would you agree
Yeah.
or disagree?
Yeah, definitely didn't have the best year PR wise, that's for sure. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I go both sides on this a little bit, where I'm one of those guys. I do like that there's more fishing out there to watch. So
Oh,
once I get
absolutely.
past like my crotchety old man take of I just miss the good old Bassmaster days, like I do like that I now have twice as many tournaments to watch and twice as many people. And we kind of forget this sometimes too, but if Major League Fishing didn't break off from bass, there's a ton of household names now in bass that we would have never heard of and we would have never been introduced to, because those 80 spots on the Elite Series wouldn't have opened up and these guys would have fizzled out after 2 years on the, whatever it is, Bass Opens or whatever. So,
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of people that we've got introduced to and now we love in the fishing world that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for MLF breaking off. But yeah, I mean, just the constant changes from MLF, I can't keep up with. And I feel like I'm probably in the top 5% of bass fishing fans. And like, I can't keep up with, oh, we're going to do every fish counts. Well, now we're trying to kind of compete with bass. So we're going to do 5 fish. And then, nope, we got away from what made us special in the first place. We're going back to, every fish counts. And we're going to cut anglers. Well, now we're not going to cut anglers quite as fast. We're going to drag it out over another year or so to maybe get some of the backlash off of us. So yeah, it was just, I don't know, the PR division of MLF probably didn't have the best 2023.
No, and I think you said about everything I wanted to say on there. I always thought it was funny. So they published their articles of you need to buy these baits, and like here's your baits to get for December. And I see all the Berkeley, Strike Kings, Lucky Crafts, whatever. And I made a comment one day, and I got a lot of likes. And I said, "What? No BD baits?" And I'm thinking, "Boy, you own Boyd Duckett baits. You're not even letting your riders give you a little plug, or people hate you that bad, they're going to be like, I will never buy a Boyd bait.
Yeah, you know what's funny? One of my favorite jerkbaits for a long time was his little knockoff 110. Like,
Right.
it's an okay little cheapy jerkbait that we used to throw in the creeks all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I think Boyd probably had a fairly rough year this year from
Yeah, I'm not
the diehard bass guys.
I don't want to hate on the guy just for being a guy. So obviously he's a smart businessman. He's made more money than I'll ever make. And, you know, he's won a Bassmaster Classic. I'm not going to win a Bassmaster Classic, and he's not going to win another one. I can tell you that. But so my funny Boyd story is, you know, he knocked off the bull shad,
Hmm.
and me and my partner fished the Triton Owners Tournament. We had a really big bag the first day. First year they went to 3 fish. We had like 16.5 pounds for three bass. And I'm wearing a bull shad shirt up on stage. And Boyd looks at me and said, "What'd you catch those bass on?" And I looked and said, "You see the shirt? A bull shad." And he just looked at me like, "You son of a bitch. I can't believe you did that."
How dare you? He just gives like the gladiator, like, do away with him. He's
Yeah.
done.
Like
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah, I was ready for him to ask that question. Now, I didn't wear that shirt because I knew he'd be there. I just had it happen on, and just when I was sitting in line, I was like, "Huh, this is going to be really interesting." When he asked, "Would you catch one?" Of course, my partner's like, "That's a good answer," because you know we didn't catch him on that,
Right.
but yeah, Boyd's had
Yeah.
a rough 2023, and I'm going to be honest, 2024. The positives, I don't know if it can get much worse.
Yeah.
He may be on this list, he may not. So we'll move on from Boyd because you know I'm not going to sit here and talk about him the whole time.
Well, and like the other thing too, you're a gear guy too. Have you ever found a ducket rod that you liked?
Actually, I have.
What'd you find? Because
Is
I've never used a ducket rod and been like,
well,
that's gonna
it's
make
like
its
a
way into my
7.6 medium heavy. It's just kind of you can do everything with it. Um, it broke though, so that's the downside. You find a ducket rod you like, it's probably going to blow up. But
it's like 13.
yeah, their rods are real parabolic. So even their
Yeah.
heavies, when you set the hook, they bend, they flex. But this rod, it was just a weird rod. I threw a lot of paddle tail swim baits on it because it loaded up. It's parabolic. I could walk a top water with it. It's kind of like I could do everything other than maybe finesse fish. But you know, after a few years, and I threw it a lot, it just blew up on me. And I never could find another one that just felt the same, even the same model and everything. They just didn't feel, it's like this one just had a little, it was almost in between like a cranking and a swim bait rod, you know.
Okay.
But,
Huh.
you know, I
Yeah.
sold them
And I hate micro guides, so they're not really my
yeah.
speed either.
If I was going to buy one, I'd probably buy that Silverado. It's not too bad, but, you know, the most broken rods ever, dude, ducket is just piles of them and piles of them. There's people around here that quit carrying them because it was just you'd sell 4 and 3 of them would come back.
Jeez.
I mean, they're lightweight. I guess they're cool if you like white rods and micro guides. They're kind of sensitive. I mean, I think for moving baits is where it's at. I wouldn't never just have one for bottom contact.
Yeah. You're not flipping a ducket rod.
No. Well, speaking of a guy that's he's got his own rods too. My pick for a winner of 2023, and he actually kicked it off his first tournament with the Bass Opens, Ben Milliken.
Yeah, I don't think you can tell the story of 2023 without Ben. Like, no matter how you feel about him at all, whether you love him and you love his channel, whether you think he's a little too brazen or whatever, or in your face or whatever it is, like you can't tell the story of 2023 professional or unprofessional fishing without Ben. And I think it's the one thing I really think is cool about Ben is like Ben doesn't have to risk the reputation of his YouTube channel or the bait company that he's, affiliated with or anything to go out there and chase like the bass thing, but he did anyway. Like he goes out there and can you imagine what would have happened if he goes out there and he's like YouTube big bait guy, big bass guy, and then goes out there and just gets stomped on the Bassmaster Opens? Like that takes a hit to you
Yeah,
and to
he'd be
your
the
little
big Bass Tournament
credibility.
guy.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And he didn't have to do that, and he did, and he went out there and he kicked butt, and it was definitely cool to see. So yeah, I agree with you there. You have to put Ben in the win column.
Yeah, I mean, just from the actual act of catching fish to all the publicity, man, he brought a ton of new viewership to the Bass Opens and Bassmaster itself. And he wins one. He
Yeah,
qualifies for the Bassmaster Classic. Like, okay, you done it. It's either the first or second tournament. Okay, this guy's now legitimized himself to people, the haters that were,
yeah,
oh, just another YouTuber. Well, no offense to Rob Turkla. He tried the deal with NPFL. His famous deal is he fell out of the boat. Might should have been
yeah.
disqualified. Who knows? And then he got mad and quit.
Yep.
And there was a point where Ben was really high in the opens. But, oh, yeah, he's going to make it. No problem. And then that grind of that schedule, he had a few downs and it come down to the last event and he makes it. But it goes
Yeah.
to show you that one, the opens are really tough. And two, the dude was a grinder and he came in clutch there at the last minute. So worked out good for Ben, worked out good for 6 Cents Fishing. It worked out good for a lot of YouTube fishermen to say, hey, just because we fish on YouTube doesn't mean we can't compete. Now, I'll tell you, I
Right.
can't compete because,
Me either.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I think Ben had an awesome 2023, and I've enjoyed him teasing Randy with the forward-facing sonar and stuff like that. And my argument, people say, well, Ben wouldn't qualify without forward-facing sonar. Probably not, but neither would other people because they're all using that as a tool. It's like saying, well, he wouldn't have got to that fishing spot if he didn't have a outboard motor. Well, duh. If
Yeah,
everybody's got one, you got to use
it's
one.
like saying Steph Curry wouldn't be in the NBA without the 3-point line. Doesn't matter. Everybody's playing with the same 3-point line.
Hold on just a second. My son has just interrupted me over Fortnite.
I'm not.
What?
You know the food is done. Mama's
Yeah, it should be. You need to tell her get up and get the food. Oh my God. All right. I gotta run. I got a little emergency. It's not really an emergency, but all right. My next winner or loser of 2023. We're gonna do it two winners. Kevin Van Dam, he retired, and the $1 Million Man, Larry Nixon.
Yep. I would put both of those as winners. Like anybody that really had, I'd maybe put David Fritz in there too. Like anybody that called it quits after just a historic career. And you had 3 of the big ones. Fritz, Van Dam, and Nixon are all just absolute legends in the sport. And I respect the hell out of any of these older guys that come back and do the grind. Like again,
Yeah.
talk about people that don't have to do it. David Fritz doesn't have to be out there, on tour. Larry Nixon doesn't have to be out there on tour. Rick Clunn doesn't need to be out there on tour, but they are, and they're out there grinding, and they're still a part of the sport. And there's still so many people, even if they're not in the top. Now, Clunn won one not too long ago, like a couple years ago, so he was still competitive in that stuff. But there's so many people that are going to those events that want to see Rick Clunn, that want to see Larry Nixon and go shake a hand and get an autograph. And it's definitely, I think, a big part of keeping like the history of the sport alive is some of those guys still being involved.
Yeah, absolutely. All 3 of those guys are legends, and KVD is not done yet. I don't mean he's coming back to Bassmaster. He still has heavy hitters, I believe, and Red Crest. But as far as actual fishing, a touring organization, he's done. Larry Nixon, dude, best worm fisherman on the planet. And David Fritz, probably the best crankbait fisherman at one time on the planet, and still respect him to this day, even though sometimes I disagree with him. Again, who am I to tell Fritz how to fish a crankbait? Who am I to tell Fritz that he's wrong about colors on the bait? Because he still probably spanked me on it. But both those guys did a lot for the sport, a lot for the viewership, a lot techniques and bait wise, how we think about them and stuff. And then Van Dam, I don't think he gets enough credit as being a bait designer. Red Eye Shad, 6XD, he's got several soft plastics. And just from knowing a guy that custom paints for Strike King and the stuff he's been telling me about Van Dam, it's not like he says, oh, yeah, make that sexy shad and let's go. Like he's really into make sure we're going to make this color and the green has to be like this. This has to fade at this and you have to do this. Making new baits, the bill angle has to do this and this width, and it has Like, so that's where I see Van Dam getting really involved in the design with Strike King and probably even with reels with Lose and all that. Hold on, I'll be right back, Andrew. You might have to hold the audience for a second.
You're good.
My other loser, and we haven't talked about him. I'll let you roll on your thoughts. Keith Poche, one of the bigger losers of 2023.
Ah. I don't know if I agree with that one. I mean, I definitely see why someone would put him on the loser list. I don't know. Again, I respect the grind. I respect if you don't, you put aside some of the questionable things he did this year. I think there's definitely some, I don't know, questionable practices and rule bending and a little bit of that comes with it. But the dude's like, fishing an MLF event on Tuesday and then getting in the truck and driving 13 hours and missed practice for the Bassmaster Elite Series event he was supposed to be fishing starting Thursday. And he's just like driving through the night to get to the next event. It's kind of like what John Cox was doing a couple years ago when he was fishing like 3 tournament circuits at once. So I kind of like that. I don't know. I like the fact that he's out there grinding, but yeah, I can definitely see where his personality and his willingness, it seems like sometimes to bend the rules, could definitely rub people the wrong way. So yeah.
All right. So I totally missed all that, but
good. So now you say it. We'll see if we line up or not.
Here's my deal with Keith Poche. Again, this isn't a personal attack or anything. I think I've said this before. Number one, qualified for the Elite Series. So he took somebody's spot that could have qualified through the Opens. Doesn't even show up to the first tournament. Qualified. Then the guy just kind of lives in the gray area, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being in the gray area. If it's not against the rules, not against the rules. But then he gets so far into the gray area, it's kind of like, okay, dude, are you trying to catch fish or are you just trying to exploit the rules? Then the boat jumping deal, I won't say I don't disagree with him, but he just kept on and on and on. It's like your wife sometimes, they just keep going. And I just learned in my day, sometimes you just got to lay back and not say anything. And it was just, he almost had the world is out to get me because I have an aluminum boat. And that's when I was like, all right, dude, there's guys that fish these tournaments. John Cox, people love John. Bass loves John. He's got an aluminum boat. No one's hating on the guy. Maybe it's how you're trying to play the game where it's kind of being a rule breaker. He's been DQ'd before. But my deal is like he didn't care over at Bass, and he was just kind of trying to make a stink to make them look bad and make decisions and then say, oh, they don't like the working man. They can't afford a fiberglass boat. And, dude, you got 30 grand of electronics on your John boat. So
yeah, that's the part I think that rubs people the wrong way is playing the victim. Like, I think if you just shut up and put your head down and you're out there, because I said before you popped on, I was like, I definitely understand where people's, I don't know, aversion to Keith comes from and people being like, I don't like that. That definitely turns me off. I also do semi-respect, even though you're right, he definitely is taking a spot away from someone that could be out there taking advantage of the practice days, taking it a little bit more seriously. There's also the flip side of that where like dude is fishing an event, Sunday through Tuesday, and then he's getting in the truck and driving 9 hours straight to the next event and like jumping in. So he definitely grinds it. But yeah, it was definitely I jumped this thing that I'm like 99% sure I'm not supposed to jump. And by the way, I videotaped it because I knew that it was sketchy. And so I videotaped it and put it online. And then when I got backlash for videotaping and putting online the thing that I knew was probably against the rules, then I got backlash and now woe is me, I'm the victim. So like that is the part that definitely rubs me wrong.
Yeah. That's kind of how I'm with it. Like if he doesn't videotape that, are we even talking about it? It would just be he said versus she said deal, and
no one would even know.
Yeah, I'm not taking away from his skills as an angler. Maybe his PR has been a little rough, but now he's again he's the BPT way. We can't make up our mind, so now he's gone back to MLF, and I wish him the best. Again, I don't hate Keith Poche. I like his style. He gets in there. He's a grinder. He'll tell you he ain't a ledge fisherman and scoper. He does use it. He says it's been on his boat. and he grinds it in shallow. But he did get a BPT win this year, so I can't like put him in the lowest of the low. But as far as publicity and what was going on the internet was not friendly to Keith Poche this year.
Yes, agreed.
All right, let's see if we got. Oh yeah, here's another winner, and just because he's my buddy, I'll be honest, I was pretty partial to put him on here as a winner of 2023, and that is Matt Robertson, Mr. Onum, who just had his Onum tournament at Lake Hartwell, had almost 200 boats. It went awesome. I've seen pictures everywhere. People were excited, but dude, how high up there is Matt right now as far as popularity within the fishing industry? He is hitting the guys that, sip high dollar bourbon, and he's hitting the guys that they can barely get a pack of natural light every week. Everybody seems to relate to Matt.
Matt understands, and I don't know, it probably wasn't even on purpose at first, but Matt understands that, like, to be a professional angler, there's so much more than being good in the boat. Like, you have to have a personality, you have to have a brand, you have to be able to be marketable, and you have to have like a niche that people associate with you with. It's like Gerald Swindle. People love Gerald Swindle because he gets up on stage and says, "Yep, went down there about 10 times, went down, said that." And it's like, that's why people love Gerald Swindle.
Yeah.
Gerald Swindle's a personality, and he has a brand. And even though I don't even think, has Gerald ever won an event? I don't think Gerald's ever won like
Gerald
an elite
won an
series.
Open a few years ago. That's the only.
Okay, never won on the elite series.
A lot.
Yeah, but he's one of the most popular guys on the elite series and never has held up a blue trophy, and that is a testament to the fact that he has a brand. People like him, people associate with him, and I think more people need to realize that. We saw that a little bit this year on the opposite side with like a Jacob Fouts of the world. That
I was fixing to say Matt is Jacob Fouts is the opposite of Matt, and
yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the woe is me attitude, whether it's in bass fishing or in life, at work. I'll work with that. I don't know if you do, but I work with people that, woe is me, and I got to work overtime, and I got to pay bills, and this and that. And I'm like, you know what? That's life. My girlfriend broke up with me. My wife left me. They all feel sorry for me. I mean, that sucks. And you do get my sympathy, but at the end of the day, you just don't drag on about it. And I don't know Jacob Fouts, and I actually liked him. I was kind of a fan when he debuted at the Classic, and he seemed to catch him pretty decent. But this whole go to my GoFundMe, I ain't got sponsors, and he put up an Instagram post that was, look at these power posts. Too bad I ain't have a boat deal to put them on. I'm like, okay, dude, whose fault is this? You're getting a lot of clicks on your YouTube channel now, but it's kind of like the Randy experience. What's this guy going to say now? Again, woe is me is not cool. Matt's like the total opposite. It's like, what can I do next to strengthen my fan base? What can I do to give back? Putting on that tournament, all I had to do is buy a hat or something. You got in. So I've talked to Matt. We're going to do one on Kentucky Lake, and it'll be awesome. But not just from the PR stuff, but Matt's caught him this year. He finished in top 10 at AOY. He's done it on the cool shad. He's done it on big baits. And even seen him with a spinning rod in his hand, which I've never, ever seen in my life. I've seen him dog cuss a spinning rod, but he had to adapt. And if you know Matt, the Matt I knew, that had to be a hard deal for him.
Yeah, it was. I love that. Like, one of the first times I ever talked to Matt was down at iCast, and I was just like walking around, and he was at the Ugly Stick area, obviously, and we were just talking, and we are talking about what Ugly Stick had coming out or whatever, and he's just like, "Man, I got to show you this," and he pulls up a carbon catfish rod. He's like, "This is one of the best glide bait rods out there." I'm like, this guy's legit. Like, he is exactly what you think he is, and it's awesome. He's out there fishing a hinkle shad with a carbon catfish rod, and it's awesome, and whooping people that are fishing $400 rods on that same bait.
I always like it on the Swimbait universe when people say best recommendations for, whatever 2 to 5 ounce, and I'll type Ugly Stick catfish rod, and people put the laughing emoji, and then I just followed up with a picture of Matt.
Yeah.
I'm like, so this thing's good enough for Matt Robertson, but it ain't good enough for Billy Vasquez from Nevada to throw his hinkle shad on. You got it.
Yep.
I mean, and the thing is, I went with Matt, and my hard drive crashed around this time last year. freaked me out. I lost everything I'd filmed with Menendez, my GoPro stuff, and I literally just got almost to the very end exporting this video with Matt and lost everything. But the catfish rod deal works. I threw it.
Yeah.
It feels good. It's got some soft tip to it, but it's got the backbone. And dude, he can chunk one out there. But I hate to say this though, I'm not sure it really matters what rod Matt's using because he's putting it in the right spot.
Yeah. Especially with glide baits too. It's like you basically just need something to be able to cast it without breaking, and you can work them fairly well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our people winners and losers of 2023. And guys, I want you to do me a favor too. After the stream, I want to leave a comment in the comment section. What was your winner or loser of 2023? Because I need all the help on the algorithm I can get. All right, let's talk about Baits Company. We talked about the coal shed. That was the winner.
Yep.
I'll go off here and say we'll start this one with the loser, and that is not to poke fun, but Guggen Squad. And I don't mean the people, but as far as the baits and everything, man, they're in discount bins everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, strike the match when it's hot. They sold a ton of stuff, but it's almost like, all right, the train is slowly starting to level out now. And whether it's your local store or Dick's or Academy, they're all sitting layers on the shelf. Buy one, get 3 free. It's not really looking good for them, and they definitely slowed down this year.
Yeah, the story and trajectory of like the Guggen bait side of things. I think when they came out with what were the first one? The first 5 soft plastics I think they had like a worm, they had the bandito bug, they had the craw, and like basically the rage, type baits that they came out with at the beginning. I think those were okay, right? They were at least had design elements that were a little different. The packaging was good. It seemed like they took pride in them. And then slowly what happened, and I don't know the whole backstory, but like I think it was Ketchco that they were with at a time. And Ketchco basically said, what can we slap the Guggen Squad name on? So let's buy a bunch of cheap jerk baits. Let's buy a bunch of cheap spinner baits. Let's buy a bunch of cheap crankbaits, and we'll slap the little Guggen G eyes on them, and we'll, put the branding on the front, and 12-year-olds will buy them. And they did that for a long time. And then I think probably what got bought by some other big capital firm. I don't know who owns them now. House of Outdoors, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then it just continues to keep going down the toilet because you've now got some guy that's never fished in his life that's just looking at spreadsheets and books and saying, okay, where's the trends? What can we sell here? And the whole like fishing part of it is completely removed at this point. It's so sterile. So yeah, I think the first couple baits, like when they released them at was it the Classic or something where they started to release them? They had the line that was like 1,000 people deep at the Bassmaster Classic. They were outside. They weren't even on the show floor. And like everyone was out there.
That year they released, because I was there. And so weird story is, they were with Favorite Rods, and I was actually a Favorite Rods dealer. So I don't want to hate on them too bad because they sold a lot of rods inadvertently for me because nobody was really selling them online other than Favorite, Tackle Warhouse, and the website I was doing. So obviously when they ran out, I'd have some stock. So sold a couple hundred of them, and so the Favorite head guy, Winston, he come up to me one time. He's like, hey, do you want to meet these guys? At first, I'm not going to lie, Rob Turkler was like, pulled me to the side. He wants to chew me out. I said, whoa, dude, I'm here on business. We're not going to do no beefing. I ain't got no personal beef with you. I said, but we can talk about this later after the show. And then Winston was like, hey, dude, this guy sells a ton of your stuff. And after that, we're cool. But John B. and Perrick, super nice guys. Like, I messaged them on Instagram, and those guys are actually bait nerds, especially John B.
Those two are, yeah.
As far as the whole Guggen Squad line of baits, it's really spiraled down. And I think, somebody said here in the comments, he said, even at Dick's, there's 6 cents baits in the discount bin. I think part of that is because that's Dick's Sporting Goods. Like, they've really changed how they do fishing, and their prices are ridiculous. Like $9 for a bag of Zoom Mag trick worms. It's crazy. But
So around here, our dicks stopped selling fishing stuff almost completely. Like they got rid of everything and they started to move because it's the same company that owns Dick's and Field and Stream. And so they started basically the people around here said they're starting to move them so that all the outdoor stuff will go to Field and Stream and then Dick's becomes like just running shoes and weights and like sports equipment and stuff. So we saw that here because we had a Field and Stream in Dayton for a while before it closed and they slowly separated where everything fishing and hunting went to Field and Stream, and then they trimmed down everything at the actual Dick's stores.
Luckily, we have Academy here, and
I'm
I
jealous.
find a lot of good deals at Academy. Like as far as big box, that's not Bass Pro. I think Academy's the way to go. Like you can find Zoom, you can find 6 Cents, Rapala, Berkeley. They have decent prices. They got good terminal tackle. Like I can go in there looking for G finesse flipping hooks, and they got them usually. Now the only problem about Academy is when they run out of stock, it might be a while before they stock back up. But if you catch them in the spring, they got everything you need.
Dude, or even Cabela's doesn't stock anything anymore. Like you go into Cabela's and every other hook is empty and it's brutal. Like and now because they're Bass Pro, like if they do have anything, it's Bass Pro, you know. They don't have G finesse hooks. They have the BPS, you know, ones that bend out if you look at them. Like that's what they have there for you to choose from. So I'm definitely jealous. And people say the Academy H2O stuff's not bad.
Yeah, so I've thrown the Academy H2O crankbaits. Like they're good. Like they're very similar to stuff like, you know, they got a Series 3, they've got a, you know, RC style square bill, you know, they got decent lipless. They're like $3.99, $4.99. A lot of guys I know buy them. Like they go in looking for something from Strike King. Well, they don't have it, and they buy H2O, and they're like, man, these are actually pretty good. Bateman Jr. was throwing one of their little square bills this spring, and he caught several fish on it. It was fine. So kudos to Academy.
Yeah.
Maybe a winner of 2023. They've been around for a while though, but you know, they sponsor a guy named Jacob Wheeler that leads us into what I felt like is kind of a winner this year. And this is kind of a hot take, and I think you may agree with me. I think the Crush City Plastics from Rapala are winners.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wasn't gonna comment or say anything until I actually got the chance to fish them. And so I really kind of reserved my thoughts. But on first inspection, like I'm a sucker for quality. Like when you look at this, it's very Rage-esque, right? It's like it's clamshelled, it's nice packaging, every single bait is perfect out of it, and that's important to me. So I liked that aspect of it, and you can tell that Jacob took pride in this stuff when he was going with them. And obviously, if you're going to put your name on something, you want that to be. But like the craw is good. I honestly think the best bait out of that original lineup that happened so far,
the Ned bait.
The Ned bait's sick.
Yeah, so that one actually caught my, again, I'm not a Ned expert. I need to learn to be better with it. So I saw him at my academy. Like they, you know, Wheeler just posted like the day before from an academy. He was signing stuff. And I just happened to walk into my academy. I was Christmas shopping for Junior. Hope he's not listening here. I won't give away what I bought him. And I saw him. I was like, wow. Let me look at them, because I didn't go to ICAST. I'd seen all the hate on Instagram. Even Wheeler had messaged me, and it was a long, and he explained stuff, and it made sense. I was like, well, I'll look at them. And yeah, they're similar, but they're not direct copies. Even the one that looks like a spunk shad, it's similar, but the sides are flatter. The rings don't go all the way. It's not as soft. But you got to think, if you make a bait like a spunk shad, you're the first in its category, okay, and it takes off, you're going to get your Zooms, your, you know, power baits, whoever, soft plastic makers, somebody's going to do something similar.
Yeah. So this is that one you're talking about. What's it called? The freeloader, I think. Yeah, freeloader. So this is, if I can get this thing to focus here. So that's the thing that you can tell it's different is the profile head on. That looks nothing like a spunk shad. That's like flat-sided, a lot more narrow this way. Spunk shad's like a Kitech, like it's like full around. Yeah.
Yeah, let's be honest. Smoke shade is a Kitech with a pintail, where that's
Yeah.
almost a fluke
It's a
style
fluke with
head,
pintail.
and then the body's more of a pintail.
Yeah.
Justin Cook says, "Is the plastic on the Neds or any other like Elastic?" I think they're very similar to Elastic material.
So just the Ned is. This is what's weird. So the 4 other ones, so like the Craw, the, whatever this is, the Freeloader, the other one's a little swimmer that they have. Those are all more standard plastic. Like you can see, like this is just kind of normal plastic. Where when you got the Ned's almost, it's called TPE, I think, but basically it's that same stuff, similar to Elastec. The thing that's different about this versus Elastec, like if I were to get a big TRD and put this on here, or a regular TRD, this plastic for some reason plays well, or plays better, I guess, with regular hooks. Where Elastec, you need that like real fine, small needle point hook to really get through there. This seems to play well with regular hooks with screw locks a little bit better than like an Elastec does, but it's still just that super stretchy material that the other 4 baits don't really have.
That was my biggest issue with, or I've always been with Z-Man. I love the concept of the stretch. They don't tear up and catch a ton of fish, but you have to get really specific in your terminal tackle with hooks. And if you use shaky heads, got to be specific style shaky heads to use it. I'm a guy, I got a shaky head I like. I love a Picasso shakedown. I love some of the 6th Sense ones, stuff like that. But you can't do that with Elastec. And you basically got to use a Ned head that's just got a little wire keeper. You can't.
Or you got to get a lighter or something and half melt it to get it to go up and all that kind of stuff. It's a pain in the tail.
It'd be interesting if you can store those with other plastics or not.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't have enough of them that I want to try it yet, and I don't want to ruin the ones that I have. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I definitely think they are a winner too. I think that of the 3 that I've tried so far, I definitely think there'll be something that I'll rebuy.
Yeah, and I don't want to just base this on the Crush City stuff, but they've done a really good job with the OG line, the Otts Garage, and they come out with the Rocco Square Bill, and I bought some, and man, these run good. So if you can't afford the high-end balsa baits of the world, I'm not saying high-end's better, but I do like to spend my $20 bills on some Edders and other stuff. The Rocco's a really nice square bill crankbait, $9-10. They got some good colors in it. The DT line's always been solid. Rapala has done a really good job the last couple of years. I feel like they deserved a little bit of shout out. Probably don't get the love some of the other hard bait and soft bait companies do. And they went out on a limb, let Wheeler design some plastics. I think they did a really good job.
So speaking of Rapala, though, I think there's one Rapala bait that came out this year that I was a little disappointed with so far from what I've thrown. And the Maverick.
So is that their kind of mega bass deal?
Yeah, that's their new 110 style jerkbait that came out that Jacob helped with too, obviously. But it's the
Maverick
Precision Extreme Maverick 110, and it's like when you think of a 110 bait, you think of this hard slashing, quick cuts back and forth. This one, even if you're slashing it, it's definitely got a more like wobbling motion to it, and it doesn't pivot as hard as like a normal 110 bait does. So I don't know. That's also kind of in Rapala's DNA, is like, except for the X wraps or whatever they were, or something, like a lot of their stuff, like I don't know, the old jerk baits that they used to have. Like on the Husky Jerk, yeah. So like something like that. It definitely has that in its bones, where you can see that it's like the same people probably that made a Husky Jerk that made that. But yeah, that's the one thing that I wasn't like super impressed with so far. The other soft plastics I've loved.
Look, so on that, I feel like every company has hits or misses. Yeah, I feel like Rapala hit a little more than they missed this year. And look, I've said before, on last case, I love 6th Sense. They do make a few baits that I'm not a big fan of. I just don't talk about them. I don't like to bash them or anything. But you can say that about Strike King, Yamamoto. I love Yamamoto stuff, but there's a few things I'm like, that ain't for me. But the thing about that Vision 110, and people think I don't like a Megabass. I love a Vision 110. I throw it quite a bit. It has a very unique action to it. And even though you can replicate the body style or whatnot, maybe the weighting, there's something about the way they weight it and the materials they use. It's hard to replicate. I think Lucky Strike's done it. The 6 Sense Provoke's very similar, but Provoke, it's a little fatter, a little bigger profile. It still got some great slash and whatnot. It doesn't suspend as much, but I catch them really good on that bait.
It's a slow sink, right? The Provoke is? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slow sink. Whereas that Vision 110, the right water temperature, it a dead stop. Like,
yeah,
boom,
it just sits there.
And they eat it.
Yep.
But to the average guy, here we go again. Most guys don't want to spend $25 on jerk bait, but if they can get very similar action and style out of a bait that's $12, $13 in different colors, they'll buy it. So, I mean, I see where companies go, oh, they got this style, Rapala, obviously, we'll try to make our version of it. Now, the only problem is you do catch flack from the crowds that, oh, they're just a knockoff company and this and that. But you start looking at all the old school baits and everything, it's just a revolving door of brushing up ideas from the Cordell Big O all the way to the latest, greatest square bill. It all started somewhere. Even in glide baits, swim baits, there's only so many ways you can make something that imitates a gizzard shad. So I used to be that guy, and I've been on stream bashing people. My problem is you do like Boyd Duckett. He has there was no innovation there. It was like, okay, let's just knock this off. That I don't like. But if you want to take something and make it better or make your own original idea from that, I'm cool with that. But if you just want to slap your name on something and throw it out there, no, I don't like that.
So, like, I think Jacob did a good job with this at ICAST this year when I was talking to Wheeler about the new baits. Obviously, the big one that everybody was complaining about was that Bronco bug or whatever it is, which is basically, it looks like the Do Live Beaver. And
which the Do Live Beaver looks like the Jackal Chunk Crawl that had been out years before.
Well, right. And Jacob, to his credit, when you talk to him about it, he's like, yeah, I throw a Do Live Beaver, but they're not durable. Like, you catch 2 fish on them and they tear. He's like, so I wanted to improve on that part. So I made something that looks like a Do Live Beaver, but it's more durable. It's like, all right, fine.
And you can go buy them at Academy. You cannot buy a Do Live Beaver anywhere but the hookup tackle. And
I'm so sick of people pretending like they were buying these baits back before they were knocked off. Like, this is a great example. Where's that? This was obviously probably like the most complained about bait of this year. I'm pretty invested in fishing stuff, and I had never heard of Grow Design Works before this year. Now, some people probably have because they're into the JDM stuff. I'm pretty invested in fishing. I had never heard the name Grow Design Works until this year. So there's a lot of pearl clutching from people that shop at Walmart that pretend like they knew what Grow Design Works was, that had no idea until they saw the entire internet was pissed about it.
Yeah, so I agree with you. And so, like Wayne that runs Swimbait Universe, I'm not trying to pick on Swimbait Universe. It's just I'm on there a lot. And actually, I like Wayne. Wayne and I have talked. And so Wayne made this post because every day people were, screw Berkeley, they're knocking off. Same thing, you're talking pearl clutching. Yeah. And Wayne finally posts, he says, where were all you when I had 50 of them for sale and sat on them for months?
Yeah.
All these people wanted to rip Berkeley for putting out a $9 to $12 version, but they weren't buying the original anyway.
And the guys that were buying the original are not going to buy the Berkeley. Like, you're not crossing streams at all. There's guys that are shopping at the hookup tackle, and that's all they buy, and they live, eat, sleep, and breathe. And anybody who was going to buy a $40 soft plastic jerkbait is not now super excited going, yes, finally, we have an $8 version I can buy from Berkeley. Those are the people that are MF in Berkeley and still going to buy from Grow Design Works. And guys that had never heard of Grow Design Works are buying from Berkeley. So there's no crossover.
Right. And that kind of goes back to last year with the, what was Ike's bait? The Gilly?
The Gilly, yeah.
Here it is again. People, the same thing. Oh, you're knocking off the IC Gill. Dude, I'm pretty vested. I ain't never heard of it. I had to look it up. And look, if you can't buy it, I don't see, if you can't buy it here, you can buy Ichiban tackle, and you can get on the super secret dark web of fishing tackle to get Japanese stuff. But, I'm not going to hate on a company for bringing an idea from Japan over to the United States and trying to make it fit our market, because they damn sure do over in Japan. I'm telling you,
Yeah, it
chatterbait
goes
was
both
invented
ways.
over here. Go look at all the chatterbait variations over there. It
Yeah,
works both ways.
I understand small bait guys getting pissed off of being like, seeing their ideas taken or stuff, but it's just how the world works. Like, if you had something that was truly innovative and protectable, you should get a patent for it. You should protect your IP. If it wasn't protectable and you can't protect your IP, then unfortunately it's just fair game. Everything in the world is knockoffs. Go to Walmart right now. Every single thing at Walmart is a knockoff from something else. It's just how the world goes.
Yeah, I always like the guys. Well, it's made in China, posting from an iPhone. That one gets me too.
Right. Yeah. that has their shopping cart on Amazon loaded up with a billion knockoff electronics and clothes and all kinds of stuff. Eating Walmart brand Cheerios.
Dude, I like Walmart brand Cheerios.
Me too. That's what I was raised on.
Well, we could get on a total big tangent, and we kind of have on just knockoffs and the process of the fishing industry and stuff like that. We'll get into some viewer questions as well too. So if you guys got some winners or losers of 2023 you want to discuss, we'll do it. So I'm going to go with the winner here, and you'll like this one. This is Bait's company. Actually, this is not technically a bait company. Winner is Shimano. They come out with a new Corrado. I know you love the K, but as far as improving on technology and still making kick-ass equipment, you got to say Shimano. They've listened to people the last few years, because, man, the G, the I series, man, that was straight doo-doo.
It was awful.
Everyone's like, bring back the E series. Bring back the E series. I still got some E series.
I got an E series in the mail today.
Yeah, the K kicked butt, and then now we got was the M series.
Yeah,
and man, people are loving them. So I got them as a winner.
So yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I mean, it's hard to say that Shimano's ever a loser. I'm kind of a Shimano homer at some point, and I know that I am, but I just love their gear. The one thing I'll say about the M, I liked the M when I saw it the first time. I've fished the M a ton since it came out, and I've put time in, like hours and hours and hours out on the water. This is a big bait reel. Like, this is a reel that the Swimbait bros are gonna love if they just give it a try. Like, this is very Tranks-esque in a lot of ways. Like, it's got a bigger handle on it than the K does. So, like, I don't know if this is gonna come through and you'll be able to see this very well, but like come on. Like, you're not gonna be able to see it, but it's probably, I don't know, that much longer of a handle on it. So it already has that big, like, you don't have to go out and buy some crazy Gomexus handle or whatever to put on your.
Don't even get me started on that.
Yeah, I know, but you get more torque on it. It's definitely a reel that can handle all of that. It's also feels a little bulkier in your hand than the K does. Just the way that the front of that, it's like you can see, like up here, like where your thumb sits and where your finger sits in your hand, the K feels a lot more compact because this contour line right here comes in quicker, where this one stays more boxy as you put your hand around it. So it definitely feels a little bit bulky in your hand, even though it's like whatever 0.2 ounces lighter or whatever it is, but it's a great reel. The only issue I've had with this reel, and I've had this issue more than any reel that I've used so far in the past couple of years, my drag slips on this reel.
Really?
Yeah, I've had it happen probably 4 or 5 times on fish. Like, go to set the hook, it is locked down beyond all belief. I've got it taped down. There's no slip of the actual line. Like, it's just the drag slips. And I don't know what my deal is on it, but no, it's a great reel. I love that they changed the tension knob. It's way easier to grip. It's more rigid versus the K is more smooth. So when your hands are wet or cold or you're out there on the water, you can obviously adjust it a little bit better. But yeah, I say Shimano's a winner.
Yeah, and their flash boost line of baits, I was kind of skeptic, but they work. And the Macbeth is a very solid balsa S crankbait. It's ABS, but it's got some balsa properties as far as the action and everything. Very good baits. They're sleepers. You know, I'm no tactical bass and that gets to throw their products all the time, but I like them.
Yeah.
And speaking of baits, a rod and reel company that made baits. One of the biggest, I'm going to say, losers in the fishing industry right now. And you saw it through Black Friday and this fall. Their stuff was on sale everywhere at ridiculous prices. 13 Fishing. They started as a rod and reel company, and they did not stay in their lane for the last couple of years. And I think it's really hurt them that they've tried to be a bait company and a rod and reel company. Like, I don't see anybody using the 13 Fishing plastics. You know, they're owned by the same company that owns Rapala. So I'm thinking we got a Crush City coming out, 13 Fishing plastics, hard baits, whatever. They're not doing that well. So let's try to shift gears a little bit. And I've had some 13 Fishing reels. And you talk about drag slipping. You want your drag to slip, get a 13 Fishing reel. The only reel I'd like from them is the Inception, and they don't even make that
the silver ones.
The silver Inception.
The silver Inceptions you could run over with a damn truck. And
Yep.
they were rock solid. But yeah, everything else I haven't really loved from them. I've broken more 13 rods than any other brand of fishing rod in my life. Like snapped rods. Just every one of them I've ever had, I think, has probably snapped, and that's probably been the end of its life.
My dad had a couple. He actually won a really good giveaway at a local tackle store a couple years ago. And so he had like an Inception and a Concept C and a couple Omens. And dude, my dad's hook setting power ain't that great. It was not that great in his later years. And he broke both those rods. I'm like, really? And then, you know, I love Gerald Swindle. But man, on Bassmaster Live breaking rods, and those just prototypes. Bro, if your prototypes are broken, I sure so ain't gonna buy the retail version. And
yeah, you know where their lane is though? They do really good in the ice fishing world. And they have great ice fishing gear.
Their ice fishing gear is top notch.
Yeah. The tickle sticks that they have, the reels that they have are so good. It's just, you're right. I wish they would have leaned more into that than to try the bait thing. What was that crankbait they tried to come out with the
Jabberjaw?
Yeah, the Jabberjaw. Like, that stuff's not catching on. That's not going to be something you're seeing people throw 10 years from now. But
very niche. You know, 6 Cents had the Axis before that. And so that was my other deal with 13 Fishing. This didn't really happen this year, but they always like to poke the bear. Like on their social media and stuff, they like to poke the bear. And I'm like, bro, y'all need to stay in your lane for a little bit.
They also have the dumbest names of all time.
Jabberjaw, very niche. You know, it's not like just a regular 1.5 or 50X, square bill where you can go fish any day, any time of the year and probably catch a fish. Very niche a market for that. And 13 dumped a lot of their eggs in the basket on that Jabberjaw. And then they come out with a deep one, and I'm like, man, I don't know if that's the play. And if you like their plastics, Ollie's Bargain Bin has a ton of them for like $2. So
I just want to find whoever names their baits and give them a wedgie and a swirly.
There are no reaction innovations.
They have like their popper they came out with is called like, what was it called? Poppy McPop Face or something. That was like the legit name of their popper that they came out with. And you're like, what are we doing here?
Can you imagine working in a retail store and dude comes in and says, hey, do you have a Poppy McPop Face and whatever crazy color?
You're like, get out.
I just said, no, we don't. Get out.
No, get out of here.
Nathan says the Jabberjaw is a good crankbait. Don't knock it till you try it. Bateman said the skipping bed sucks. Than actually fish one. That is a true story. I was not a fan of the Strike King Skip and Buzz when it first came out. There was too much going on. I'm like, there's no way. And by God, that's turned into one of the better buzz baits on the market. It catches fish. It ain't real loud or anything, but you can skip it and it does catch fish. So I'm not saying their baits suck. I'm just saying 13 Fishing might want to stick to rods and reels a little bit more and refine their baits. Like I said, the Jabberjaw seems niche to me. Probably a good bait. But, dude, when dealers got piles of broken rods and people send reels in and they can't fix it, that's not good. So,
yeah.
All right. Let's see what else I got here. That's pretty much it for baits and companies.
I got a couple. Can I ask you a couple?
Sure.
Let's go. Where do I want to start here?
Bassmaster ripping off Tackle Talk podcast, not once but twice.
Oh no!
I love Bassmaster, but we'll say the social media department thumbs down, big L. So You've had the Swimmy Awards. The second year you have it, you're about to release it. Oh, here comes the Bassies from Bassmaster. What?
Yep.
And then we see they make a social media post and it has a quote and all that. Looks just like the ones you post. Somebody at Bassmaster really likes you, Andrew.
What's the old saying? It's like imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Is that how it goes? Yeah. But it's cool. It's like I understand. Like I don't have the rights to any of that stuff. Like you don't have the rights to the idea of an award show or something. But it's definitely a interesting coincidence. It's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask you. Let's go Fenwick.
I don't have a problem with Fenwick. I think they've made a really good push this year. They're kind of they're a real popular rod back in the 90s or whatnot, and in 2000s it kind of fell off where there's marketing and whatnot. Some guys really like the old Fenwick drop shot rods. They kind of had a cult following.
Yeah.
And now they've revamped and everything. And I think they've had a pretty good year. I would say they're probably a winner as far as what they're doing, the people fishing their stuff. And totally honest, I haven't used any of them. I go from my opinions from people I trust. Say they're good rods, so I'll say they're a winner.
Yeah, I've got to fish because they did the whole revamp of like every rod they ever have, so they're all brand new coming out. And the guy that does it, Justin Poe, is the old guy from Loomis, and so he was like on the first NRX team and that kind of stuff. So they're legit rods. Like I honestly think in the next couple of years you'll see, yeah, like the world class and stuff is nice, but they're out of a lot of people's price range. The elites are nice. I think that little $99, what is it, the Eagle, I think is their cheapest one that they have that they revamped. Like it's going to be a killer in that $100 price point that nowadays has kind of gotten worse. Like I would argue that probably the least strong Dobbins rod in that, in his lineup is probably in that $99 price range, like the Maverick. I would just rather people spend another $25 and go get a Fury.
Right.
SLX is a pretty stiff, not super sensitive rod. Like, so I think that $99 price point, I think they're going to cause a stir here in the next year or two. That's my prediction.
That's a good one. That's it. So, like from a retail mind frame, when you get a company that's got 6-7 series of rods, you got a 99, a 79, a 99, 129, 159, 199. I mean, that's cool that you get a lot of options, but what happens, you're going to have a couple left out. And that's kind of what happened with the Sierra series of Dobbins at one time. You had Fury, Sierra, and then Champion. People like the Fury, they're 119, and I want a nice one. They skip the in between, which is the Sierra, and they go to a Champion. Or they want to go backwards. Oh, I can't afford a Champion. Oh, here's one for 119. They kind of skipped at 150. But I've always said that $99 to $120 price point is where you want to be. If you want your rod is your best selling rod should be in that price point, because that's the majority of your people that come in will pay. I have no problem spending 120, 119 for rod. I mean, I'll spend 200 too, but it's a little easier sell to the normal fisherman that, hey, I want a good rod, but I don't want to break the bank. And you hit them with good quality, good sensitivity, a nice balance of that. They buy a couple and they like it. It's easier for them to come in and go, hey, I want to step up and pay $200 for a rod.
Yeah. I know you're going to have a bias on this one, but
okay, that's fine.
What do you think of
the Panorama? So
Panorama,
I fished it a little bit, and straight up, I have not caught nothing on it. So, but I know some guys who have. I think its jury might be out a little too early. So I love the 3D-ism on that. I think you're going to see more soft plastics and stuff try to go to this 3D look, ultra realistic. Bass are more pressured than ever. But as we know, just because it looks just like a bait or something like that, even from the Bill Dance days, doesn't mean they're going to catch fish. There's several videos out with Ben, Josh Jones, other guys, Dalton Smith, that have caught a lot of big bass on the panorama, rigging it in different ways. My personal opinion, I think it's going to be an awesome follow-up bait for those bass that come up at top water. They miss your spook or whatnot. You can flip that sucker out there kind of like you would a fluke and just let it fall on a wacky rig and maybe snatch a couple up. My biggest complaint about it is rigging it if you want it in a horizontal presentation. It's not a swim bait. I
Yeah,
think
there's no meat to work with there.
Yeah, there's no meat to work with, but because the back is round, it's really hard to get a hook at the right angle where you're going to hook up. You'd almost have to modify it and cut that a little flat. And I'll be honest, I don't think a bass is going to tell whether it's straight flat, almost like a flat pour or a curve. But I know what they were going for. I really like the smaller ones. So the smaller ones, the 2.8, the 3.3, I think that's going to be juice on a ball head if you're a forward-facing guy on a Ned rig, even put them on smaller chatterbait, stuff like that. Because I did put this, I think this one is a 5-inch, and I put it on a jackhammer, just a little big. Again, you get that right cadence, it looks great. But if you just went a little fast, it made the chatterbait fall over. So I'll be interested to put the smaller one on there, especially like on a naked head. I think it's going to be a player. Again, it's really early. My fishing's almost about done here. I'm in overtime work mode, but M. Jones, like schooling fish, stuff like that. I think it's going to have a player on the normal places. Carpenter was on here talking about flipping it in grass, and when he was pulling out, he said it was just like swimming over the top of it. I think that bait's just too early for me to say it's going to be the best bait ever, or it's going to be the worst bait ever. And look, someone, alum Nathan, great dude, said, my problem is sometimes y'all talk shit about baits you haven't fished. I definitely have done that. And I want to try to do less of that. But, man, sometimes
I try not to. Yeah.
Yeah, try not. Sometimes you just get stuff that you're like, that ain't,
that ain't the move.
Right.
Yeah, my problem with this is I just don't know what to do with it. Like, it's a blank slate, but it's a blank slate with no action. And so I think I'm going to take the little 2.8s and I'll probably put it on a little shaky head and just drag it around in the river and see what it looks like on the bottom, just this way. Like, it's dragging on the bottom.
Right.
This way.
So I know they
just kind of see what I can do there.
They'd advertise it a lot as being able to put it on a shaky head. And so one way some guys catch smallmouth here, and I probably shouldn't say this. They fish the river, and they basically put a fluke on a heavy drop shot. And this is a wintertime deal, so they're drop shotting a fluke, a Z2 or something like that, and just bouncing it. And I'm thinking, well, if they're going to bite a fluke, you could take a 3 or 4-inch panorama and do the same thing. I think that's where it's going to excel, especially that smaller size, is drop shotting it. And if you're on a TVA lake, Wheeler, Wilson, getting in those tail races and then catching them on those swim baits and stuff, is using a heavy drop shot or even a Tokyo rig and just bouncing that on the bottom like, a shad falling down through there. It's going to be sweet.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Okay, those were mine.
Those were yours? All right.
Yeah. Or I was going to say KGB swim baits too, but
I'm going to go winner on that one.
Yeah, they've had a hell of a year. Like, not just so they got rid of the Chad because they're not making Chads anymore. I don't know if you knew that. Kevin's not making any more Chads under actual KGB. It sounds like they've moved to this TSG. So it's kind of like a Chad. It's called textured Chad glide or something is what TSG stands for. But it's basically the old textured Chad, just a little skinnier, a little not quite as tall. This thing moves awesome. But I'm wondering, I don't know for sure. I'm wondering if part of the Spro deal was that they got the name Chad Shad after a while. Because that's the only reason I could see thinking why you're moving away from the name that is so marketable. And I wonder if that was part of the deal where they don't want the confusion between two Chad Shads out there on the market. So part of the deal with Spro was like you get the name after a year or two. But like this is the Spro version. And this thing's pretty sweet too, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they I hadn't thought of that. I think that was a really good Darius says he caught him on 3.5 panorama today.
There you go.
And he's on Kentucky Lake. So if you can catch a bass on Kentucky Lake on a bait, it's probably decent. Or you're just around them. But yeah, so I've got a threadfin shad one over here, and honestly, it almost looks troutish. So that was my only problem, was the threadfin shad was more of like
Yeah.
the one you have. A gizzard, more silver to me, but
Yep.
I ain't gonna hate on Spro. I mean, this is actually a really good looking color.
Yeah.
I've heard some guys talk about inconsistency on them, but I've thrown this one around in the pond. It did what my normal Chad Shad did. I
Yeah.
think
The
the
thing that
collaboration between Spro and KGB was a good thing. You've seen Missile Baits and Hog Farmer collaborate.
Yep.
There's a big one coming down the line that I cannot talk about, and it involves a Swimbait and a really popular company. Kind of on the same deal here, but they made a bait. They modeled after the original one. It's about a quarter of the price, and it does a really good job. What's up, Clint? And if you want the OG version, you're gonna have to pay. But the textured shad glide is really nice, and I keep seeing them, and I just forget to buy them. I did this deal where last year I sold a bunch of my swim baits. Said I'm only gonna keep what I'm fishing with, and so I've got about 3 that I really like.
Yeah, I've got, I think, 2 or 3 of the new TSGs. The only thing that bugs me about TSGs, you got to change that back hook size. You got to change that to at least 1 or 2 sizes smaller, because otherwise, every single time you throw it, that's what she's doing. You're hung up in the tail.
Right.
So you got to change that back hook. But
so I've got
he did a good job with it.
6-inch paperweight, really good bait. That's one my knocks on that is you'll have to go look at your bait by every 3rd cast, because the treble gets hung in the slot where that tail goes in. So
yep.
This is true. James Barron says Lure Parts Online had that line through Swimbait Head years before 6 cents. Yes, they did. That was a Bill Lowen deal, but we go back to this thing where if nobody knows about it and it's not selling, was it not marketed right? Was it not used? I don't know. When I buy fishing tackle, Lure Parts Online is not the first place I think to go buy stuff. Now, if I'm a bait maker, building molds from raw, yeah, probably. I think there is some differences. That one from Lure Parts Online's a whole lot thinner. So this guy right here, Clint Knight, says he thinks it's one of the best glides to weigh down on the market. So Clint, obviously, he's got a freaking trophy in his profile picture. He's an absolute hammer on Kentucky Lake. Dude is freaking good.
Yeah. The one thing about the Spro version of it is they did a good job of internally weighting this thing. You can see, like, if you look at yours too, I mean, that bottom weight, all the weight is there at the bottom belly. You can't foul this thing up in the water. Like, if you try and you put it like this in the water, in 2 seconds, it does that and it sits right back up. So they did a good job on, I guess, probably testing and making sure that this thing is weighted correctly. Because I got to assume that's one of the hardest parts, going from a resin pour to a soft plastic with weighting internally, is like, how do you replicate that whole weight inside the whole body? And they kind of took the polar opposite, and they're like, no, we're not going to weight the whole inside of the body, just weight the belly where you need this thing to sit up the right way.
Clint says he's got 14 suspend strips on his. Well, I don't think you're fishing in the dirt, Clint. You're not fishing in 3 to 4 foot deep points if you got 14 suspend strips. Maybe you shouldn't have said that. Now I know where to look for you.
He's got a dumbbell on it.
No kidding. I'd like to go out with Clint too. He's a good dude. So won a lot of money. He's a great fisherman. Let's see if we got any. Yeah, we got a couple. Let's talk about here. The big one. The big loser. I'm not going to say the biggest, but the bass boat industry. Now, this is totally not tackle, but man, it's been a rough year. We got. I wrote down.
Yeah, I wrote down one brand in particular.
Sure, throw it at me.
Who would you guess? The biggest loser.
You said Icon.
No, but close.
Vexus.
Ballistic.
Oh God. Yeah, they are. Are they even around? They had a really bad year.
I think they technically still are. But yeah, I mean, when you pull Lee's boat, what was it, 2 weeks before the opening of the season? You're like, hey, sorry, Lee. One of the biggest names in bass fishing. We don't have a boat for you. You have to go to your local marina and buy one off the show floor. And it was like just a random brand. That's a
Yeah,
bad
so
look.
they actually started out 2023 and said, "Hey, you're going to have to really impress some people to do as bad as we did."
Yeah.
And you know what? I think Lee handled that about as professionally as you can. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if someone did that to me, I probably would have said some choice words and made
Oh
some
yeah.
really negative posts. So shout out to Lee for being real professional. Now I think he announced he's with Express. So going from
Cool.
Ballistic to Phoenix to Express, very interesting. But
Yeah.
dude, when you can't get a boat and they pull it out from under you, it's a bad deal. But there's been some really bad stuff with Ballistic. Guys, it's all over Instagram. Guys spent a ton of money, put a lot of money down. It was more than a down payment. Like he'd paid
Oh
for
yeah.
half the boat.
We know a guy. We won't say his name, but we know a guy that got screwed on this one pretty bad.
Yeah, real bad. Wanting to refund his money, basically said he was too picky and said you're shit out of luck and all this. And dude, it was not good. Like when you're having to get lawyers and attorneys involved, and it's, I don't think their boats were bad. And in fact, everybody I knew that had rode in one said they were bad son bitches. They fished good, they were fast, but dude, and we know it's hard sometimes to produce things when you don't have these big corporations backing you with money. And I imagine it's even harder to do a bass boat because, well, let's go give you $20 million. Are you sure you can sell more than 10 or can produce 10 a year?
Yeah.
Whereas people are dogging Icon at $125,000, $140,000 boats. The company that owns Icon could care less to sell another bass boat. It's not going to hurt them if they only sell 10 to 15 a year. They're selling multi-million-dollar yachts, and
I'm about to say they're a yacht company, right?
they're
Like
a
his
yacht company.
parent company.
So,
Yeah.
hey, if we sold 15 Icons, great job, guys. You're
Yeah.
selling the Porsche of bass boats, and that's where we want to keep it. But oh yeah, by the way, we sold 150 of these $4 million yachts.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
people say, who is going to pay that? The guy that's paying that is the guy that pays cash for his $100,000 Yukon to tow it with.
Yep.
So it's a small market. I get it. But just because it's $150,000 doesn't mean it's overpriced. It's supposed to be priced at that point. It is, it's the Rolls Royce.
Yeah. It's not made for people like us.
No. So me, realistically, none of them at the prices are right now are made for me and you. Like
I'm a used bass tracker guy at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking, and when I make a decision, it's probably going to be a boat that's 4 or 5 year old used with low hours on the motor that I can afford and put a decent down payment on. And I might even go older than that and just say, hey, screw it. As long as the motor's in good shape, I'll throw some electronics on there and go from there. So I will say the one positive thing you can say about forward-facing sonar, it is shown that you do not have to have a $100,000 bass boat to catch a fish. If
Nope.
you'll put some decent electronics on a 1999 Triton TR21, you can pay 15 grand for it. Take that extra money you're going to spend on a 2010, put forward-facing, couple units on it. If you can get around fish, you can be pretty competitive with that.
Yeah, Ryan, my buddy, made a good point here. Why don't you maybe just join the plastic boat club over here?
I've thought about it.
Have you really?
Yeah, so my buddies always want me to go. He's got a Hobie PA, and he had a bona fide. So I did some kayak fishing, and the first time I was like, I like to stand. I couldn't do the sitting deal. For some reason, I felt weird sitting. But my balance, and then I tipped it. But I haven't said no. I'm not the tallest guy. All right. So I'm like 5'7" on a good day, depending on what boots I wear.
Same,
and so
pretty much.
My truck's also got an 8-inch lift on it. So throwing that in the back of my truck would be tough. But I guess I could get a kayak trailer, but I don't want to be that guy, because I've talked about that guy, in boat ramps holding up people to launch your kayak. And I even told one day, I was like, dude, Like, well, there's a beach right here. You can just launch your kayak at the beach.
I'm telling you, man, you get like $3,000, you get yourself a bad setup. Like I've got a Hobie Outback, I've got a Newport motor on the back, I got foot steering, I got a throttle. Like it's like a go-kart, like being in a go-kart on a kayak, and it's awesome. And I can stand in it. I can do jumping jacks in this thing. Like you can't tip it unless you're really trying to tip it. Come over to the dark side.
So right now, the way Kentucky Lake fishes, it's not a ledge lake like it used to. And that was my biggest thing about a kayak was like, man, I don't want to be, in the middle of summer.
That's a different thing. Yeah.
The schools are out there, out deep, and there's a little bit of wind. I'm kind of screwed. Because what I do know, if you throw a 10XD on a kayak, you're going to go about 15 foot forward on a retrieve. Now, obviously, you can get anchors and
that
stuff.
Does happen.
But now, with a amount of fish that live shallow, they're just on main lake points or riprap, stuff like that. I really feel like kayak might be the way to go and do my buddy. He's always fishing off the wall stuff, like getting in little streams and stuff. So I haven't exactly put it behind me. If I sell enough baits on whatnot, I might get me a kayak.
There we go. Come on up. Come up to Ohio.
So there's another point there. So let's say you go, hey, Baitman, I'm on some great smallmouth up here. When you go to Eldora Dirt Track, just down the road from Dayton, throw your kayak
on
back
over.
there. Yeah, the gas mileage in my truck ain't going to suffer if I decide to just throw a kayak. You're going to convince me to Orange Stream, and I'll have a Rubbermaid boat.
Hell yeah. The rubber, what do we used to call them? The Rubbermaid regatta. Like when you're like on the river and you see the 60 kayak, people from the livery that are all coming and drinking beer and coming together, and the rubber regatta comes around the corner. You're like, gosh, dang it.
Yeah, Nathan says the fishing community in the kayak world is better than the boaters. I think it is. And then there's some, just like the boating community, there's a lot of really great bass boat guys, but there's a lot of, hey, look at my wiener guys in the bass boat world. Whereas the kayak guys, there's a certain amount of them that are so purist, like you can't have electronics, you don't need a pedal, it's only a paddle, and that's not how it's supposed to be. I'm like, man, but that's just groups of people in general. So I do think the kayak guys love being social. They do feed off each other's energy very well. There's some hilarious guys and great fishermen that, without a doubt, if you put them in a bass boat, they're going to catch them just as good. Me, I'm going to suck just as bad in a kayak.
Same. There's no helping us.
Let's see. Ryan says you can stand all day in a shit. Okay, I think that was a typo. I think you stand all day in a crap load of kayaks. Yeah. I've used a Jackson, and I like the Jackson pretty well. I've been in a Bonafide. I like the Bonafide. I'm kind of leaning Hobie because I like their pedal drive system, but Old Town's not bad. There's a lot of choices out there.
I've done all seem like I've at least been in most of them at this point. I think if you're just getting a pedal, a paddle kayak, honestly, Feel Free is pretty good out there. If you just want a stable kayak that you can't tip and it won't break the bank, you get $800, $900. You get a really nice kayak, get a lure or something. They're really nice. Old Town was okay. I think you're right. I think I definitely like the pedal drive system of my Hobie better than the Old Town, but the Old Town was great for what I needed it to do. The Hobie is faster. The Hobie takes a motor way better if you want to put a motor on it at some point. So everything has its own pluses up and down. People are loving that Crescent Shoaly that's out right now that Drew helped with over at Crescent. So there's a lot of good boats out there.
Look at you. Now you're going to be Kayak Talk podcast.
No. Hey, we're kayak guys out of necessity.
Yeah.
We're river guys, so you can't even get a boat on the rivers that we fish.
I know. Like when I see you posting photos, it looks like you're fishing like the power plant stream from The Simpsons or something like that. Like
it's basically what it is. It's probably cleaner than the power point, or it's dirtier than the PowerPoint lake for The Simpsons. They're disgusting. You got to dodge the needlefish all over the bank, the hypodermic needlefish. You got to dodge the homeless people. You got to dodge the poop and all kinds of stuff. It's the tweakers that are in the bushes. It's an interesting time.
So do you store your kayak under cover, or how do you do that?
Like when I'm at home?
Yeah.
I installed. Yeah, so like my garage is super tiny too, but I installed a lift system. So I hook it up and then I just pull it up and it goes all the way up to the ceiling and it stays up there. So that way I can park my truck in there.
Yeah, so that's my deal is the bait room's full. I ain't getting nothing in here. I've got a storage shed that I'm really contemplating running electricity and moving all this stuff in there, keeping it
Okay.
warm in the winter, cold in the
Little he
summer.
shed.
Yeah, a he shed. The problem is when it gets hot, the dirt daubers and wasps get in there, and
Yeah,
my wife's got clothes. Man, she got clothes all in that shed.
clothes.
But I could put a kayak back there. But I always said, hey, my next house project add-on would be to add, like a 20 by 30 man cave that I could put a bass boat in.
Yeah.
And I would not want to do an add-on and just throw a kayak. But,
right.
It's probably easier to cover a kayak than it is a bass boat.
Yeah, get you a tarp from Harbor Freight and call it a day.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, really. So, all right. Anything else you want to talk about for 2023, Andrew? You know what? I'll tell you a winner. Bass boats is, obviously we didn't talk enough about the reason I put them in the losers. Interest rates are ridiculous. So I want to make sure I say why bass boats. The interest rates are ridiculous. The prices are really high. And I'll be honest, some of the quality and some of the, I'm not going to mention names, some of the quality and some of the makers I've noticed has really gone down. I've seen a lot of rub rails busting out. I've seen transoms. I've seen stress cracks. And when you're charging $60,000 to $100,000 for a boat, those should not be an issue. Now, part of that, COVID. Resin was hard to get. I worked for a window company years ago, and we could not get resin. Even where I work now, we use resin and some stuff. It's gotten better, but I think a lot of companies were just flying by, pushing stuff out to get a boat, and the quality was a little down. Now I think it's getting better. I feel like the reason the bass boat market is really slow too. Like so many people bought boats during the COVID deal, C-19. And then a couple of years later, they're like, I didn't use it that much. So now I need to dump it. So now you're getting a lot of 2019, their new 2019, 2020, 2021 new boats, low hours. They're all over the market. The new boats, they finally caught production. Like, we got to get these boats out. Everybody's wanting them. And now, done. Big example of that. I don't know all the details. I'm sure it's part of it. But the Boatworks deal over there in Missouri, the largest Caymans dealer in the country, sold so many. They went out of business. Caymans had to basically get like 60 boats that were on their forward plan. Like, that's a lot of money sitting around. And so then you got a company that came and said, what are we going to do with all these boats?
Yeah.
Because you can't put out a bunch of 2023, or now 2024 models if you got all these 2022 and 2023 new ones sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, that's not good. And I hate to say it, people are going to disagree with me, but Johnny's laughing. He's selling Nitros and Rangers and Tritons and going to Bass Pro, and they throw that, it can be yours for $495 a month for 20 years. And
this could be yours for $3 a day.
And he's going to get a kick from the finance company. They want you to buy that boat for 20 years. They do not want you to come in with cash and half of the money and be like, I only need the finance for 6 years. They don't make no money that way. They want you to come in with 640 credit that's just good enough to get the boat, just enough to get you a 14% interest rate and pay on it for all 20 years.
It's just like buying a car. It's the same thing. It's like they don't want you to walk in and buy a car. They want you to buy it, to come in and get a car on a loan. Really?
So Eagle says they took Milliken's boat from him. Wow. So I think the Boatworks, Baitworks, those guys split, and Baitworks is good. They're still selling baits and stuff like that. And there's some money issues there at Boatworks, or I don't know. So I don't want to bash people if I don't really know the story. But from what I've heard, it was just weren't selling boats, and it's hard to have a boat business if you're not moving them, and hard to keep putting money into it. But it's wild. The thing that kills me about a bass boat, I can't cook out it. Well, I guess I could cook, but I can't put a kitchen in it. Can't put a shower in it. I can't sleep in it if I had to, but I can't put my family in it, and the price goes down every year. Whereas my house, if I put nice things in it and make it better, the price goes up. I paid about $100,000 for my house. It's worth almost double that now. If you buy $100,000 bass boat today and you put live scope, 4 graphs, power poles, new trolling motor, a year from then it'd be worth $20,000 less.
Yep.
And that's where I have an issue that why a bass boat costs that much money. Is it the outboard? Is it the labor? Is it because they figured out that so many guys will wear a jersey and promote you for free,
That's
and they
definitely
feel
part of
like,
it.
hey, I'm going to be a pro when I spend this $90,000.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's like appreciating and depreciating assets are interesting to me. Like I'm a music guy too, so I love playing guitar, and like my guitars appreciate. Like the guitars that I buy, usually if you buy the right ones and you're buying the brands that you know in 5-10 years, like people will want that. Like I've got on my wall, I've got 2 guitars that I paid $200 for, and I can sell today for probably $600 or $700.
That's
Like,
how I am with baits, man. So to somebody's point about, you remember the Jabberjaw Axis conversation? In 20 years, will people go, hey, remember that bait? They catch fish, and all of a sudden, Berkeley Havoc. I'm always looking for what's going to be the new Vixen, what's going to be the new Wigglewort.
Yeah.
I feel like Bandit crankbaits is about to be the next Wigglewort. They're getting harder and harder to find. But you can tell from the whatnot. I didn't have no clue how many people were like searching for fat-free shad to build Ant's Excalibur stuff. Obviously, I knew those, but they've discontinued so many colors and stuff in fat-free shads. They're getting a falling. But I'm always looking what's been released this year that in 10, 15, 20 years, people are going to go back. I've got to have those.
There really wasn't a lot this year.
No. Like soft plastics is kind of a weird deal. Like you'll get your guys that like the Havoc, or there's like some OG Lucky Strike stuff, some older Berkeley, some Reaction Innovations colors and stuff that guys will pay big money for, like the Boom Boom tube. Awesome tube. Don't make it no more. Guys will pay $9, $10, $15 a pack for 8 tubes because they're really good. But like Cincos,
Yeah, it'll be like, what, in 30 years, will people pay crazy money for like max scent flatworms maybe? Like that's one of the only things I can think of right now where I think people at some point, if heaven forbid they ever stop making it, people would go nuts.
Right. Well, I'm just looking what I got on the wall that people, Zoom's got like, so I'm a mag trick worm guy. I love the mag trick worm. So if that was a bait, they said, hey, we're not going to make any more, I would pay a pretty premium price for that. Or, let's say they change the formula up on a super fluke. Then you get this, I need the OG flukes that, have the right salt content. Here we go. Steven says, are the Mega Bass Respect colors worth buying? I think if you're a collector, absolutely. But
yeah, like
is that
that's
is this a Respect color?
Yeah, this is one from about a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe something like that. But I liked it. It's pink. Smallmouth will eat it. It's got that cracked top kind of look to it. But dude, I think you're right on. I think the only reason you buy Respect colors is if you're trying to sell it to those 17 guys on the internet that all sit in a circle and slobber over each other on Megabass colors. There's like 30 of them in the world where they're all jonesing for that morning dawn jerk bait, and they think that's going to be like their Pokemon cards or something someday, where they're going to like wake up and then the world's going to be like, I need all of the Respect colors. And it's like half the Respect colors.
You know what's
suck.
wild though? There's guys like that for Rebel. Like I'm in a Rebel group. They want all the deep R's, all the shallow R's. Obviously, guys collect the Vixens and the paychecks. And my boy Frank here, he throws them. I've seen his. They got more teeth marks on them. They got paint. But there's a huge group of Megabass guys that never fish. They just collect. And what I found about this JDM world that the hookup guy Tackle hasn't told you is a lot of their companies, their business is built on collectors. Like they're making these 1 out of 100, 100 of this, 100 of that, because they built up a following and they know they do in Japan. They trade these some bitches like Pokemon cards. They're trying to put out a Charizard and a Blastoise and whatever. That's their deal. Is these popular companies, they run these certain colors and it's a collect deal. The Pop Max, man, there's hundreds of colors and some they make 10, 15. I'm cool with that, actually. There's nothing wrong with that because when I find one cheap, I can sell it and make some money.
It just cracks me up when it'll be like, respect series color number 46, and it's just all black. And you're like, I could have done that with a can of Krylon. Like, what is I don't mean to dump on Megabass. They're fine. If that's your thing, it's great. It's kind of fun to make fun of every once in a while. Like you get on the Megabass collectors page on Facebook or something and watch these dudes just lose their mind over things. It's awesome.
Megabass. The guys are dedicated, man.
Yeah. I respect the guys that are actually out there like trying to get them. There are guys on there that all they want to do is get them to fish them though and see like what works and what doesn't. They're not the collector guys. I like those guys obviously, but
I would love to get a Morning Dawn 110 just because of the whole smallmouth. I feel like pink, those bright yellows, those have a place for the smallmouth guys. And obviously smallmouth will buy a bone one, they'll buy a clear one and all that, but for some reason, even on a swim bait, a little bit of pink or chartreuse, it aggresses them. It brings them out to where they want to eat it. So like when I bought my Crush City Neds, I got pink ones. So
yeah, I don't understand why people don't just take, the clearest 110 you can find and just send it to a custom painter and have them match the Morning Dawn. Like you could do that and pay someone $30 and they can get pretty dang close to it if you're really trying to fish it.
Yeah. This is a good point. And this is kind of what's happened in the sports card world too. They'll never be worth a ton of money if Megabass keeps on making hundreds of them every drop. Got to keep it more exclusive. So what happens when you print more cards? They get up real common. So if you make more baits, they get more common. You can say it's exclusive, but if you make 10,000 versus 500, and like I'm in sports cars, I've read so much stupid money, and a 1-of-1 isn't a 1-of-1 if you have 20 different variations. 1-of-1 means 1-of-1. So,
yep.
All right. Let's see. Any other hot takes? Anthony Guy says the KVD jerkbait pink is fire. It is. Let's see. Any other winners or losers of 2023 can you think? Or do we have any bold predictions maybe for 2024?
I didn't say it earlier, but while we were talking about some of the other stuff, so like the Nessie, like I honestly think one of the big winners of 2024 probably was people like Grow Design Works. Like, yeah, you could probably make the argument that getting knocked off by Berkeley, if you're a company that 95% of people don't know about, you just hit the jackpot.
Yeah, sometimes any publicity is better than no publicity. And who knew that Berkeley was even going to make a jointed swim bait till then? It could be if they didn't try to make something similar, no one would have been. They'd be like, I ain't trying that. It's Berkeley. Ooh, all right, here we go. Nathan says, winner of the year, Jacob Wheeler, tournaments and baits. Could we crown Jacob the overall winner when it comes to winning tournaments and baits?
Oh, it's close. Yeah, you can make the argument for it for sure. I think like 2023, if you objectively have to look at it, it's probably either Jacob or Ben. Like of your 100%. Two big winners, and you just look at them through two different lenses. Like Jacob is arguably maybe even inarguably, the most dominant angler on the planet right now. Over the past 5 years, he's wiped the floor with people all over the country. And so I think that's hard to argue with. I think he had a good launch of the Crush City stuff. I think he's, like you said, the measurement of success with Icon is different than I think a lot of people think it is. So I think he's had a fairly successful launch of Icon. And now people like me know who Icon is, who, if you wouldn't have partnered with Jacob, I would have probably never been on my radar at all to even know who you are if you're only selling, X number of boats a year and you're basically a yacht company. So I don't know. I think it's hard to argue. I think Jacob had a pretty darn good year.
Yeah. If you looked at, so the elite level pro, and when I say elite level, I mean, that's your top tier guys, whether you're Bass Pro Tour or the Elite Series, that's your top tier fisherman. It would be hard for me to argue against Jacob. And I know people say, oh, Jacob can't pass a polygraph or he can't do this. look, until you prove it, show me something on paper, that's hearsay to me.
Yeah.
Like if someone says this angler didn't pass this polygraph, okay, let me see the paper. Let me see it. Don't just sit there and talk and say, well, this guy got all this info and this and that. All right, well, if he got it before the, I've heard people say, oh, well, Ben gets a lot of help and he gets waypoints. And okay, well, there's rules. If you get it before the 30 days deal, then everybody can get it. So if it's
They
legal
all
to do, get it.
Yeah, they all get help and waypoints.
Yeah,
Everybody
they all
does.
get waypoints. They all get information. They all listen to YouTube. We get on and watch Bait Man and listen to Tackle Talk and whoever else.
Everybody gets help.
Yeah.
Some are just more blatant with it. Some are just paying for them, and some of them are just getting them from buddies.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and I love him to death. One of the greatest fishermen of all time, Van Dam. Dude, I've seen him sitting on stuff on Kentucky Lake. I'm like, bro, you weren't there last year.
How'd you know about that?
You didn't just find that. But you know what? Hey, if you get your info when it's legal to get, who cares?
All right, I got another hot take. Kevin's not done.
Well, he's not. He's fishing red crest, and he's going to fish heavy hitters.
I think he's still not done after that.
It's interesting.
I don't know. I think people like that have
legends exemptions. If he gets bored, he's getting.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if guys like that can turn it off. Like, I don't know if he can sit at home and just be like, "Yep, I'm super happy making baits and hanging out." It's like, no, he's like one of the most fiercely competitive guys ever.
Look, so we talk about MLF being a loser. Kevin Van Dam's a winner. He is not going to get on a sinking ship.
Yeah.
I don't care. That's the biggest telltale sign to me that there's issues at Major League Fishing is Kevin Van Dam will not sit on a sinking ship. If Strike King was going to go out of business in 6 weeks and they said, we ain't making no money, we're selling to some dude in China, KVD, he won't be with Strike King. Yeah. That is not his ego and his image. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. If you've made your living as being the top dog and being associated with the top tier, you don't want to be on that second tier.
There's probably a little bit of that.
See KVD doing like a farewell Bassmaster Tour. Basically what Larry Nixon did this year. Went over to the elites. He was competitive in several events and said, man, I'm just going to hang it up. I want to retire a Bassmaster. And in a way, I'm not begging you, Kevin. I do feel like you might owe it to some people.
I'm begging you.
Stack up for 1 year and say, this is the farewell tour. This is the last time Motley Crue runs the arena stages. And we're going to do it. And
then what happens is he comes back. He like wins one of those on his farewell tour, and your boy's back. He's back.
Absolutely.
He's like, nope, I'm not leaving.
Yeah. Jones says, great. Quantum was sinking. He jumped to loose.
Yep. I about said that. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like he saw the writing on the wall where Quantum is not as cool as it used to be. Also, he had the Strike King thing, which obviously when Rather, owns both of those, that's going to be a thing too. But
Nathan says, he's sorry for sleeping on you. You're knowledgeable about baits and fishing. New sub. Hey, appreciate that. One
appreciate
of these days,
it, man.
I get some new subs on my channel. I keep getting like 40 a week, and then I lose 30. So really making some people mad, I guess. All right, we've been on almost 2 hours. And Andrew, I really appreciate you coming in. Hella Bass is streaming over on his channel. So if y'all want some more bait talk, fishing talk, or whatnot, I want y'all to go join Hella Bass. Andrew, I really appreciate it. Let's do it again. We'll try not to wait a year. We'll do it in a few months or whatnot. We'll get a theme of baits. We'll talk about, spring crankbaits, swim baits. We're going to put some big Joshies out there.
Oh, that's my stuff.
Got to get that big Joshie plug in there.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. It's always fun. Yeah, same
anytime,
thing.
Dude.
We'll have to get you on TackleTalk again soon.
There's only so much we could talk about without running the same topics through the car wash. And you had some great points. And again, you're a knowledgeable bait dude, and that's why you're on here.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Guys, y'all have a good evening. Be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment after the stream. What was your winner or loser for 2023? I'll see you again. I may do a Christmas Eve stream. See you guys. Andrew, appreciate it.